So ideally, this is a three blank text completion question, and these are very frequent in your GRE exam, right? And most of the times, when we talk about complex kind of questions in GRE, it is mostly these three blank text completion question, two blank text completion question, which happens to be quite complex and complicated. And typically, these are
Yes,
quite lengthy also. As you can see, you have three different ideas which are connected together. So definitely, these are quite,
yes,
complex. So let us look at
yes, ma'am.
the text. It says to the blank eye, the jungle canopy can seem little more than a dense lattice work of branches and leaves. So now if you look at the first idea, you will see that it's talking about jungle canopy. What is jungle canopy? Jungle canopy is like, you have a lot of bushes and it's like dense jungle,
Yeah,
right? Dense forest, dense jungle, abundance of flora and fauna, basically, very dense. It says
yes.
can seem little more than a dense latticework of branches and leaves. So when it says little more, right, ideally, if you go through the first sentence, you will never be able to come up with any word for the blank, right? The only two
Okay.
most important words that we understand, I mean, the most meaningful words that we get from the first line, first sentence is jungle canopy, there is dense jungle, and that dense jungle is perceived as little more than a dense latticework of branches and leaves. So, what exactly do you mean by this little more than a dense latticework? What is this little more? How is this little more
And it's
important?
contrasting. It is contrasting here, and it is comparing it to the lattice, lattice work of branches and leaves.
No, no. If you've heard about much more, so there's a term which is
Yeah,
known as much more, and then you have this term which means little more. Right? So what is much more
yes,
like if I can say, that you are much more than a son to me. I mean, I'm just giving you an example, which means that you are not only a son, but I'm attaching a lot more emphasis, a lot more weightage to you. Right? हम लोग often we say
yeah,
this, often to other to our friends also that you're much more than a friend to me, which means
yeah,
you're not only a good friend, you're not only a friend to me, but maybe I'm attaching a lot more significance and weightage to you. So that is much more. And
yes,
when we talk about little more, what is little more? Little more is just the opposite. So little more means that
yeah,
it does not have too much weightage, it does not have too much significance. So when they say that the jungle canopy can seem little more than a dense latticework of branches and leaves, that means it only seems to be, I mean, a little more than dense latticework of branches and leaves. I mean, nobody is thinking the jungle canopy or the dense jungle to be beyond a network of branches and leaves, right? This is one thing.
yeah,
Second thing, when they say to the blank eye means definitely there has to be someone. Isn't that so?
yes,
I mean, whenever they say I, that means there has to be a person, right? There has to be a person whose eyes they are talking about. So, in the first blank, you basically have to come up with a word that is talking about or describing the kind of person.
yes,
So, there is a particular kind of person, there's a particular kind of, I mean, there's a particular set of people or a particular group of people for whom the forest or the jungle is just a dense network of branches and leaves, it's nothing more than that, right? And then look
yes,
at the
ma'am.
second sentence, which is very important. So if you look at the second sentence, it says for the indigenous peoples of the Amazon. Now, indigenous, this is a very important keyword. Indigenous means, people who are growing up there, right? People who are born and brought up. So definitely people who've grown up in the Amazon forest, people who have been born and brought up and raised over there. For them, the importance and significance of the Amazon forest would be a little different, right? For them, the Amazon
Yes,
forest would be of great significance, of course. And then they say that even a
yes,
small area can serve as a veritable blank of pharmaceutical cure. So, this part, this idea is talking about the fact that people who have been born and brought up in the Amazon forest, people, who have stayed there, people who have survived there, for them, Amazon forests are not only forests, it's not only about the dense forest, but it definitely has more significance and more importance than that, right? This is the idea. So
Yes.
if you look at the first idea and first sentence that I have, highlighted in yellow and the one that I have highlighted in red, you would understand that there is a contradiction. There's an implied
Yeah.
contrast. Are you understanding that? There's an
Yeah.
implied contrast. What is implied contrast? This is a very frequent kind of a question. Implied contrast means, you don't have a contrasting transition word. You don't have a contradictory transition word like but,
But it's still
however,
contrasting.
but still there is a comparison, and this is how this happens to be a very hard question, so this is how, very hard questions are formed. So in a very hard question you will always see that there are two different ideas, there are two different sentences, and although they are not using specific contrasting transition word, they are not using specific contradictory transition word, but there is an implied contrast. So what is the contrast over here, Nilesh, between the two ideas? What is the contrast? The idea that I have marked in yellow and the idea that I have marked in red. What is the contrast? Can you tell me what's the contrast?
It's the contrast with the indigenous people who do have the knowledge of jungle. It is
Perfect.
contrasting between them.
Perfect. Perfect. Great. Great. Yes. So ideally, the point is that there is a contrast between two different sets of people. The second part that is highlighted in red is talking about the indigenous people, the people who have grown up and who are raised there. For them, there's a lot of importance and significance to these Amazon forests, right? And then you have
Yeah.
this sentence which is highlighted in yellow, which is talking about the set of people. For them, it's not that significant, the Amazon forest, right? So the contrast or the contrasting word in the first blank will be exactly opposite to the indigenous. Am I making sense?
Yes, ma'am.
So opposite to indigenous could be a word, that is an amateur. Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody who is unknown. Somebody who has not grown, who has not grown, who is not much aware. So unaware could also be. And hence
Yes.
untuned. Got it? Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Now,
Yes,
before
ma'am.
working on the second blank, I think we'll work on the third one. Now, if you look at, so in the second blank, also certain words which are very important are these, pharmaceutical cures. Okay, it says the field of ethnobotany, which relates to both the natural pharmacy offered up by the jungle. So connect this, connect. So maybe I'll do it in a different color so you'll understand it. So pharmaceutical cures, natural pharmacy offered up by the jungle, and the peoples who serve as a store of such knowledge has become increasingly popular in the last decades as many anthropologists hoping to take advantage of this vast bounty. So try to connect, these parts which I've marked in green: pharmaceutical cures, natural pharmacy, store of such knowledge, vast bounty. So all that we understand is the Amazon forests are so dense that they are serving as a storehouse of pharmaceutical cures, and good natural pharmaceutical things, right? So, and then you have this part. Learn the language and customs of the tribes in order to blank them thousands of years of knowledge. So if we have to, or if the anthropologists have to reap the maximum dividends, right, out of the pharmaceutical cures that the forests are providing, out of the years of knowledge that these indigenous people are providing, then they basically have to learn the language. So this has to be extract, right,
Yeah.
or read the mark,
Yes, ma'am.
and hence glean from. And then look at the second blank. The second, of course, the word for the second blank has to be something which is abundance. Isn't that so? How do we get to know that? If you connect the parts, which are in green: pharmaceutical cures, natural pharmacy, store of such knowledge, vast bounty. And hence the answer should be cornucopia. That's clear? That's clear, Nilesh, with you. So, how are we working on these three blank text completion question? One very important thing that you have to understand is that the blanks are connected. So whenever you are coming up with the words for the first blank, whenever you're coming up with the word in the second blank or the word in the third blank, although the words would be different, but you have to understand that the ideas would be connected. So once you are coming up with the words and once you're plugging them back into the blank, you need to understand that all the ideas are connected together and the entire text is coming up with a story. That's clear, Nilesh? Perfect. Got it? Any questions until now?
No, ma'am.
ठीक है. And of course, in GRE, I mean, these happens to be your highly frequent words, cornucopia, knowing the meaning of this word cornucopia, knowing the meaning of purge from, knowing the meaning of glean from, all of these are very, very, very crucial. Right. So, three blank text completion question. The first major technique would be to understand that when you are coming up with words in the three different blanks, each of the ideas are connected to each other. The first idea is connected to the second idea is connected to the third. And so, after plugging in the words in the blank, the entire text should come up with a story. Make sense? Got it?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Any questions? Anything that you couldn't follow when I was discussing this?
No, ma'am, it was clear.